Hello everybody and a warm welcome back to F1 Cockpit Real Racing. You need pure skill and driving, and welcome to Cockpit Real Racing. My name is Zabe and I'll be on the live stream once more to take you all through for the action here at the Circuit of the Americas. Apologies about that, I think stream wasn't running earlier on for some reason. That's why it was showing actually frame drops in my OBS as well, while it usually does not. So title and everything will be updated later, so apologies about that. But for some reason it did not want to start when I pressed live earlier. It was live on my OBS, but when I went on to check, it was not live out on YouTube. So I'm hoping everything's going to be smooth and the watching experience is going to be better than ever right here at the Circuit of the Americas. So my name is Abe and I'll be taking you all for some racing action experience and fun once right here. And already as we have a sprint qualifying about to come to an end before the sprint race itself begins. Do we have Sayrton? He's going to go take the checkered flag in 12th place. Who's going to be the next car over the line? No Esses is not even in the session, while his teammate Petrocam is up in P4, while PFM is in P1. Chris Neifer in P2, championship leader so far. What about SayrtonPenna's teammate Adel is going to go over the line, 15th fastest, slowest of them all so far. What about the Alpine of Gerardo? He's far away from the finish line, but Forest Jump, the driver second in the championship so far, goes up to P4. Are we going to see Hernanos? No, we're not. He's going to come into the pits. Are we going to be seeing any of the Red Bulls go over the line? Is it going to be Colosio? No, he will not be. He was one of the very first drivers to set up post up a time on the board, and he is not able to improve, and he does not find any improvement on their time at all. We looked at actually the championship and everything earlier, but apologies about that. We lost all of that, unfortunately, as it was not recording nor streaming. While Jalman is going to be the next car who's going to be on a fast lap. Meanwhile, it is going to be Gerardo who's going to go over the finish line. Improves by 1500ths of a second, but it's not going to be enough. He's going to be staying in P11 as it was. And we are coming to an end, to the end of this brilliant sprint qualifying. Unfortunate to miss out on pretty much all of it, but do not worry about that, as we've got the sprint race now after this, and then the main Grand Prix, which we will move over to in a few moments time. Well, every single one of these drivers is now into the pits, and that fun is gonna be right there. That fun we are gonna be having soon. We see currently cars out on the track, but they have taken the checkered flag. It is Sayrton's car and Adel, but they've all taken the checkered flag right there. So let's see what exactly is going to be happening moving forward, because we should be seeing nothing but some great racing action. And these are going to be your results, ladies and gentlemen, from the sprint qualifying right here. It was PFM who's on pole with Chris Neifer in P2, Hernanos in P3. It's Forest Jump, Petrocam, Juper, Jalman, Rexido, Pina, and Diego in the top 10. Outside are Gerardo, SayrtonPenna, No Assist, Colosio, Adel, Dance, and Wellward, the two drivers who could not put up a time on the board in this session. So we move over to 10 laps of the sprint race around here. So drivers will go around. Drivers will give it everything they've got, not because this is the only chance they'll get, but this is the first chance they'll get, because there is one more remaining after this. I'm sure they will not be worrying about anything at all at this point in time, and they'll make sure to make the most of it, use all the chance they'll get, while we're just waiting on the teams to make their cars ready for the drivers to select the best of strategies, which I think it's going to be 10 laps of sprint if I'm not mistaken. So it's not going to be much. Let's say it's pretty much going to be without a stop. So whatever tire you start on, you're pretty much going to be finishing on that exact tire. So in terms of strategy wise, you don't really need to worry about it, but you'll need to make sure that you start on a tire that gets you to the end, because if you start on the wrong tire, if you start on the tire that is going to be finding it difficult to get you to the end, your race could be over as soon as it starts, because if you do not manage the tyre the way you need to do, it could definitely entirely ruin your chances and race winning options. I'm unsure if we're going to have sprint race and then a qualifying again for the Grand Prix. I believe so we'd have, because I've been told this is as according to the real life, which obviously the sprint format itself is a different thing, and racing itself is a different thing on its own. So double the action, that means 2 qualifyings and 2 races, which are going to be going on around here at COTA. As we're still waiting, there might be a bit of a time before we get started. So as soon as we see cars on the track, as soon as we are out there with cars moving around, and before we could talk about it, we already are moving around for the sprint race as the formation lap gets started. We are right here. And look at this. As I was saying, pretty much it's going to be the same exact tire everybody is gonna choose, or at least they're not really gonna be making pit stops. So only one tire everybody would choose. 17 drivers starting here out of the 17. 16 of them are on the set of medium compound tires. Apart from Rexito, he might have saved it from let's say qualifying, but if it's to be counted, you know, even if it's 10 laps. Doing 10 laps on those soft compound tires is going to be extremely difficult, because sure, you're going to say, okay, I need to gain positions, I need to gain a little bit more on the drivers around me, but then you need to be in P1 by turn 1, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult for you to show you're going to be effective, and you'd be effective for like, let's say 2 to 3 laps, but after that it's going to be extremely difficult for you to even keep the position you want, or keep the position you're in. Because currently, the top 8 scores points in the sprint, so they're currently in P8 position A, but if that soft tire, if they're not able to get the launch off the line that they need, if they're not able to get the race start that they'd be looking for, and ultimately, if they're to fall, even if they're going to come back, and let's say they manage to come back, or even at the start they manage to get P4 or P5, they need to manage it. So let's say more than trying to finish, more than trying to overtake and get a position you're looking for, you need to try and make sure you're going to finish it and keep it while you're in it. So as it is, you know, to finish first, you need to finish. Let's not waste any further time then. It is the McLaren 1-2 and a McLaren front row with PFM on the top ahead of Chris Neifer, who's in P2. Championship leader is Mr. Chris Neifer. Currently starts P2. Hernanos is in P4, I believe, in the Drivers' Championship. Starts P3 with Forrest Jump in P4. With Patrick Cam in P5, followed by Jupiter in P6. Well, the last car has now approached the grid as we're ready to go racing, and for the sprint here at the US Grand Prix, it's going to be a front row lockout for McLaren. PFM on pole with Chris Neifer in P2. It's a decent start for PFM, but it's a decent start for Hernanos as well. He's just handing it in there around the outside. Who's going to be leading towards turn 1? It might be PFM, or is it going to be Chris Neifer? Chris is going to send it around the outside. Is he going to be able to hang it on there? No, as it's going to be PFM who was around the outside, actually will get the move done and get himself up into P1, and he'll stay where he started and will not have to worry about losing positions. While it is at the back, Juperu's gained up a couple of places, while Patrick Am has lost out then as it stands with Forrest Jump and Hernanos still managing and maintaining P3 and 4. Meanwhile, the McLaren drivers are in P1 and 2 as well, so it is all to look out for here, because Hernanos is going to be in a bit of damage, in a bit of trouble already from Forrest Jump right there, because Forrest is within a half within half a second. Obviously no DRS for the first lap, but still it's going to be quite difficult to stay ahead of him. It's going to be taking a bit of defensive moves from him to stay ahead, while at the back of the race, the grid, there's going to be moves coming up, and Esses is going to send it on the inside line. Is he going to be able to make the move successful? Well, Glowsy is going to come back at him. They'll be around the outside. Is it going to be a chance for the Red Bull to do a switcheroo as the Esses runs a little bit wide, but it's not going to be possible for the Red Bull driver to quite do that right there. While we're now watching out the top two drivers, it is what you guys are looking into. Do you guys want to watch the top? Do you guys want to watch the bottom? Well, there's a bit of moves up at the bottom. There's the Aston Martin of Downs is going to get past a couple of drivers. Edel is struggling a little bit as he drops down to P17. Is there going to be a Mercedes? And it's going to be the Mercedes of Valward. He has to back out of it and eventually come into the pits. They might have damage along with Edel. Now it explains why they come into the pits, and they probably would have had a bit of a damage as well. As we're now just going to calm down a little, but lap 2 out of 10. And so if you start on a soft tire, it'll be very difficult for you to finish. But actually, those who have pitted have chose the soft tire, because eventually if you, I don't think it's a mandatory pit stop, but still it would be the case if you are pitting, you choose 2 different tires. So those pitting right now chose the soft tire, otherwise they wouldn't have had the soft medium tire available, another one for them to use in this sprint race. That's, I believe, what would have happened. While Jalman is 5/10 behind Petrocam in P7 so far. Who is it going to be? What moves are we going to be seeing? No assist earlier, went on the inside of one of the Red Bulls, but couldn't make the move successful, and currently stays in P11 behind Penna, who's in P10, who's in P11, and behind Gerardo, who is in P10. Well, there's a bit of moves up at the back, and it is Colosio no, in fact, it might have been Valverde who's got past Edel, or it could be Diego who's got past Colosio right there. Alright then, so at the moment, as it stands, as it looks, it's almost like a DRS train right here. Remember, only the top 8 in the sprint score points. It's going to be PFM with 8 points, Chris Neifert with 7, Hernanos with 6, and so on to P8. Well, we're not seeing much moves being made at the other part of the circuit. We might be seeing moves being made at the top of the circuit, as the top two, the 2 McLaren teammates are almost going to be fighting each other off, while Hernanos and Forrest Jump within 1 second as well. This could be interesting. This could be falling brilliant, heading to the left end and now the back straight, the place where you'd see most overtakes, the place where you'd see many overtakes going forward. Is it going to be a switch up for the lead? Is it going to be a switch for the lead coming up? Is Chris Neifert going to think he's strong enough to get past his teammate right on the inside line? Is he going to send it from the long way back? No, he will not, as he does the nice way. Does not go for a move very early by the SayrtonPenna. Might be on his way to get past the RB there, and he does get past the RB, as Rexito will concede that place. And as I said, Rexito has not been able to gain places on cars, and that would explain why choosing the medium tire would have been a better choice. While Diego and Dance are going at it. Diego and Dance are going to be on their way to fight each other off while we're watching a Red Bull, but we need Dance and Diego fighting each other. And it's the Aston Martin. Oh, that's going to be a Penna, who's going to be having a bit of a slide on his own and nearly loses the car. It's going to be Gerardo who gets past the Red Bull and is going to be staying ahead of the Red Bull. Well, now look at this. The top 2 once more. The 2 teammates are on each other, and it won't be too long before Chris Neifert knocks the door of PFM. He's already knocking the door of his teammate, but how long before he could stay behind? How long before PFM could stay ahead and keep his own teammate behind for a couple of laps from now? Here we're on lap 4 out of 10, so not too long before we get to the end of this, not too long before we get to the end of this sprint race right here. And sure, Chris is now going to be maintaining position. Chris is now going to be on his own so far, but we should be seeing him make a move very soon coming up into this sprint. He might be going for it right there, right now, and he will in fact not be going, and that explains there might be going on some team games here, because as it looks like then the two McLarens are not fighting each other, while at least the Hernanos and Jump Forest are right behind these guys. But if PFM and Chris Knifer fight each other off, actually Hernanos and Forest Jump would be able to get closer, more than ever closer, which would be very difficult for others to maintain, which would eventually be the reason, I'd assume, they're not fighting each other, while Petrocam and Jalman are closer to each other. Haas and the Mercedes driver right there, while at the back of the grid there's going to be a spinner, and it's going to be Gerardo, who's lost the car on his own, and surprisingly no front wing visible damage. At least no visible damage, though there might be some of it on the you know, not the physical side, but the damage side that we can't see. Well, Jalman will get past the Haas, and the Mercedes driver will take 6th place right there, while the top drivers, despite being within 1 second of each other, are not yet making moves, and I think they know that. Only halfway these 10 laps, and these guys are being pretty patient, I'm gonna lie, because I remember I did the last couple of races. I think I did 2 races this season, if I'm not mistaken. So one of them was at Canada, I believe, which was a 100% race, but we lost nearly half the grid before the end of this race, and it's going to be Chris Knifer who'll get past his teammate now on lap 5 out of 10. We kept waiting, and waiting, and it happened on 5th of 10 laps here in this sprint. Now, it might allow Hernanos in the Sauber to get past. It might allow Hernanos in the Sauber to get closer to PFM in that McLaren. Well, I'm sure Knifer had the speed and had the pace, and even on our pace, you could judge Chris Knifer had a lot of ground, but he was simply not being too impatient. He was not being impatient. He was being patient. He was going to wait for his opportunity, and he was only going to make the move when he 100% knew that he was not going to put anybody in danger, and would have been able to make the move past his teammate right there. Well, we're pretty much in a DRS train right here then, because all the way from Knifer, apart from Jump, but he's also now within 1 second as well, all the way down to Petrocam, everybody's within 1 second of one driver or the other. Well, SayrtonPenna is 4.5 seconds almost, in fact, now behind Petrocam, and Rexido is 1.1 ahead of Rexido, who is out of the points as well, despite starting on the soft compound tire. Didn't manage to make the most of it, while the Mercedes is right there. No, in fact, it's the Aston Martin of Dance who is right behind, right ahead of the Red Bull of G-Pinna. G-Pinna is going to try to make sure and to get through these S's as soon as possible, while we go back to the top of these times. And there might be a move coming up from Forest on Hernanos. Will Forest be going for a move on Hernanos? Rather, he will not be. And he has to eventually back out of it and stay a little bit patient. But now Duper is arriving as well, so the fight for 3rd place might well be not 2-way but 3-way fight, while Duper is arriving from behind as well, with Petrocam and Jalman in a fight of their own. It is all going on right here as Petrocam's going to send it on the inside line. Will he be able to make the move successfully? He nearly does, but Jalman's going to come back at him. They're going to be side by side as Jalman gets past and gets the overtake, and he'll be able to keep it to himself right there without much trouble going on, or without much trouble giving much trouble to the driver in front. Meanwhile, Duper is 4 tenths behind Forest, who's 7 tenths behind Hernanos, and now Hernanos has lost out to PFM, who is over 2.3 seconds ahead of him and 6 tenths behind his teammate Chris Knifer. And I think you pretty much could get an idea how and why McLaren are leading the Constructors' Championship so far. If we get a window or a time, we would play those championship standings once again, because I'd assume we couldn't, unfortunately, get it done right, on the stream earlier because of the issue we had. Lap 7 out of 10 now. Chris Knifer leads the sprint race ahead of PFM. I'd assume we'd go into the main race qualifying after the end of this sprint, but still unsure what we're going to do. And if these results are to continue in the main race, it would still be brilliant, though, But let's see, Petrocam on his way to get past Gelman, and he does get past Gelman. Has Petrocam run a little bit wide? He might have done so, because Gelman's almost going to come back at him, but he narrowly has to back out. Now almost everybody's tires are running out of grip. Everybody's tires running out of performance. Might be the case. They're dropping out to one another, because now the gap to the leader is quite a lot. Apart from Hernanos, who's 2.6 seconds, it's 14 seconds. Petrocam and Gelman, 15 seconds. SayrtonPenna, 18 seconds. And Trexito is over 22 seconds to the race leader. But let's see, what are we going to get between these drivers? Not this time, though, and as it looks like Petrocam might just have had more pace and more speed than did Gelman to simply get past him, while Jupiter, Forest, and Hernanos still being within 1 second of each other. I think none of them are going for the move just yet, and possibly I'd assume that they're going to try and go for it again, unless the driving standard has improved, because obviously it looks much better from the last race I did around here, I believe. So definitely much better driving from these guys so far, but also there hasn't been much closing racing as well. Sure, everybody's been within DRS of each other, within the rear wing open, but they just haven't had the opportunity. They simply haven't had the proper chance, or a perfect chance, which will allow them to get the move done, while Gelman might have a chance to get the move done, and he does get the move done, and he will get past Petrocam, who had overtaken Gelman for a little bit, but the Mercedes driver will come back at him with the help of DRS and ERS on that Mercedes, and will get past him, and a move will be made, while at the back it is Adel in that Ferrari, who's fighting on his own. While we're now on lap 9 out of 10, as we've headed over to the second last lap of this sprint, ladies and gentlemen, before we move over to the main setup, the main 50% Grand Prix. It is going to be all interesting to watch out for. Be right here. Lap 9 out of 10. Chris Snifer leads ahead of his teammate PFM, who qualified on pole. Chris was in P2, but still he leads the race so far, with Hernanos in P3. He's just about almost a second, but now 7/10 ahead of Forrest Jump. So by the looks of it, Hernanos looks in a bit more of control, because now Jupiter is within 5/10 of Forrest Jump. So you know that it could well properly be a chance right here for Jupiter to get past him, unless he will do it or not. While PFM now, being on the second last lap of the sprint, could well have a go at before the end of this lap, or at least at the end of this lap, on the final lap of this sprint. He could have a chance, he could make the move, unless they're trying to make the team game work, unless they're trying to make the team game right here, because definitely that's going to be more beneficial to them, because otherwise these two teammates could end up fighting each other, and in that fight they could easily end up damaging one another, which would eventually mean that it's very bad for them as a team, because if they lose slight bit of performances, they lose a position here, it would be pretty handful for them to lose, because of that because that team's championship is on the line as well, while it is Wellward who's down in P17 on those soft tires without a front wing right here, while the top two are going to be on in the final lap of this race here at the of this sprint, going through the Esses. 6:10 separating the two teammates. Both of them have got just enough battery to use, just enough for each other to defend, while both of them now using the overtake button. One is using for the overtake, the other is using it for defending. Is PFM going to be able to get closer? Is PFM going to be able to have a chance of making a move against his teammate? I don't think so, unless he goes for a aggressive lunge down the inside. He doesn't quite do that, so it doesn't look like to be a case. He'll be making the move. Next driver, it'll be No Assist, who's just making their way around through the Esses now, within a second, and within DRS. range of their teammate, of the car in front, while it'll be the two McLarens who started at the front row, who qualified on the front row, were 1-2 in sprint qualifying. They're just making their way around the final corner now, and they will be 1-2 here in the sprint at Austin as Chris Neifer wins a sprint race here at the US Grand Prix with PFM in P2. Hernanos manages to hold off his P3, managed to finish P3 with Forest Jump in P4, followed by Duper in P5, and it'll be Jalman in the Mercedes, a sole Mercedes inside the points. It will finish up in P6 with Petrocam in P7, and the final driver in the points will be SayrtonPenna, while Rexito, definitely starting on the soft tires, would have been a smart choice unless they just managed to do a better job than they would have done on the soft compound tires. They've got a penalty. They're going to cross over the line in P9, but there'll be no assist to straight away takes that 9th place. With Diego, the sim driver, is going to be coming over in P11th place. And then it starts in P12 with Pina in P13, followed by Gerardo in P14, with Edel, Golosio and Velward. All these respective drivers are on their way to go over the line, are almost on their way to get it over the line. 3 seconds, Gerardo, the penalty he's got. It'll be Edel who's over 3 seconds ahead, and 3 seconds behind. He'll finish in P15. It is Golosio, the final driver, to go over the line before Welward. It is going to be Golosio. He was the very first driver to set up a time on the board in sprint qualifying, but unable to improve on that or get it any better. Had to start at the very bottom and now will finish only second last to Welward, who has not had the best of races, to say the least, and he's going to come home to finish in P17. And then these are going to be your race car sprint results, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Neifer in P1 with PFM in P2, Hernanos in P3, Forest Jump and Duper in P4 and 5. With Gelman, Petrogam, Penna, no assist, and Rexito in the top 10. The top 8, of course, scores points, with Penna being the final driver to score a point right there. And it is Diego, Dance, Penna, Gerardo, Edel, Golosio, and Welward are going to be the 17 drivers who we've got to the end of this. And now with the sprint race over, we'll move over to qualifying for the main race, and the action will once again continue before we see drivers out on the track, unless we move over to the main race straight away, which it did say sprint qualifying on the screen, and indeed it'll be qualifying, short qualifying, I'd say. And a lot of drivers we saw did lap on those medium tires previously, but definitely not having to worry about medium tire or the tire for the sprint. All of them are going to be doing the laps. All of them are going to be doing the laps and the performances we would expect them to do. They themselves would expect them to do, and will come out on a set of soft compound tires right there. Okay, then we'll have cars come out on track, but just before that, let's have a look at one more look at the championship standings. So before coming into this race, this is how the standings look in the Drivers' Championship. Chris Neifel leads ahead of Forrest Jump in P2, sorry, with Hernanos in P3, 365, 305, and 298 points. It is PFM, who is Pierre Francesco in P4 with 160 points, followed by Andrew, who's got 105, who's not here, I believe. Should be driving for Sauber, 110 points for them. Then it's Ronin on sixth place on 80 points, 6 ahead of SayrtonPenna, who's in 7th place. And then it'll be Petrocam in 8th place with 62 points, 58 for No Sebo. We don't see him in the session so far. Unless they're operating with a different name. Then it's Jalman in P10, 53 points to their name as well. Jupiter's got 45 points ahead of Car C in P11 with the Car C in P12. Noah's is in P13. Glosio has got 14th place in the standings. 33 points, just a point ahead of Evo, who's got 32 points. And it is Pempo, who's got 27. Adel has got 19 points, despite having a sprint race to forget. He has scored points, so he needs to remind himself that he can do a lot better, and he sure can do all he's got in himself. While Trax is on 19 as well, while Diego has got 18 points. It is 16 for Zeno, Black Shark's got 14, 10 for Mixu, 12 for Wellward, 8 for Frankie, and Capro has got 8 with Rinky and Mr. Creco, who's got 1 point each. We'll have drivers now out on the track and on flying laps as well. We're going to find out who's going to be the next driver closer to the finish line. Who's going to be the driver who will be on their way to finish a lap in there. Both the Alpines are yet to go over the line and complete a lap in. So I'd assume it'll be the it won't be the McLaren, I believe it'll be one of the Red Bull drivers, and it should have been one of the Red Bull drivers, or indeed it should be one of the Red Bull drivers out there who's about to go over the line. It might be Galosio who'll go over the line ahead of everyone. Yes, he will. 133.143. That is a lot better than their time in sprint qualifying quali, but is it going to be enough though? That's the question. Time will tell. Will they be able to repeat what they need to do? Will they be able to simply perform and do what they're going to be needing to do? Well, Pinna isn't going to be in P2 so far, but the only 2 drivers have now posted a time on the board just yet. Well, there is a lot of drivers who'd go over the line. Rixido will go over up in a P2 once more. It is going to be the Aston Martin of Dance who'll go over the line, while Andrew's retired from the session. 136.5 from Andrew there. Is it going to be Edel? Yes, it will be Edel, the next car over the line. 135.635 from the Ferrari driver there. Well, we'll have one of the Alpines, and it'll be the Alpine of Gerardo, who has invalidated his lap, so he will not be getting anything, while his teammate is right behind in closer towards his way to finish this race, to finish this lap, not race, but rather put up a time on the board which will be fastest. And yes, indeed, it will be the fastest time of them all, ladies and gentlemen, so far. Is it going to be Neifer who's about to start his lap, or will it be PFM who was going to come home to finish a lap and put a time on the board? But will not be the case, as they have invalidated it, so not much will be affected, and rather a lot will be affected, and in terms of they're not able to complete a lap in, they're not able to put a lap together as qualify. So I believe Andrew just came in. Andrew didn't check in, so he's not going to be able to do the qualifying session. He can race though from the back of the grid which is going to be the normal procedure around here. Well, one of the Aston Martins went over the line earlier, and I believe they're going to go again over the line while not finding, or in fact, they do find an improvement right there. 36 reroad, 0. It won't be the fastest of them all, but still, it will be decent enough. While SayrtonPenna, who's about to start their flying lap, meanwhile, Chris Neifer is on their way to start a flying lap as well. Who's it going to be the next car that we'll see go fast, go fire, go through the track and put a time on the board? And it will be Gerardo, but it's only good enough for P5 right there, and third slowest time from the bottom. Is it going to be the Haas of Patricam as he's about to get started, while Adel is going to come into the pits? He's got a time of 1:35.6 so far, but what about PFM? Has he got the lap again, which he couldn't earlier? And yes, he has. He invalidated his lap before, and he's going to put a lap in. That's going to be fastest of them all, and over 4/10 quicker than the next car in P2. So well done and brilliant job from PFM there, at least so far, to put one McLaren at the top. You know, with Chris Neifer at the coming up and having started their lap, he eventually will be the next car who puts up his car on pole. But before that, it'll be the challenge of Sayrton. Could they come up alive? Could they come up to the line with them being the fastest driver right there? They're going to make sure to use all the skills they've got around here, around Kota, at the circuits of the Americas. They've got the final corner to go, and as it stands, they will not be looking to go fastest, only P8, while Chris Neifer is coming into the pits, which is interesting, which is it looks invalidated. So eventually they will have invalidated their lap, and they would have rather wanted to save their tires. Meanwhile, Jalman is going to be going over the line 1:39.7, but it was an invalidated one, so it doesn't quite matter. Well, Patricam in that Haas will have the chance to make his lap matter, and yes, it at least does for the moment. 1:34.2, but it's going to be good enough for P4 so far. Well, it's going to be one Mercedes in P16. The other will move over up to P11 then. How good will this be? We're about to find out. Well, Forrest Jump is now going to be starting the lap, the second one right there. Meanwhile, Hernanos is going to come into the pits as well. Is it going to be the Williams of Duper or the Williams of Diego, the two drivers who are not yet able to put a time on the board? Only 11 of the 17 drivers in the session have been able to put a time on the board. Andrew is there. There is a total of 18 drivers, but he is not allowed to qualify. He's not allowed to complete this qualifying session, at least by doing a lap. He rather will be. And Sayrton looks like he's went for it again, so probably what we wouldn't have known earlier, that they would have managed to charge their battery. They would have tried to charge their battery on the previous lap, and they put a lap in at the end of this one. Yes, they will put 1.2 seconds better than their previous lap, and they'll move over up to P5. 1:34.6 as it is. Only the top two are in the 1:32s, and Galosio in the 1:33s, while Jalman, it will move over to 1:33.5 as well. So Galosio, who couldn't put a lap in better than 1:36 in the previous session, has managed to put a lap. That's good enough for P3 so far, at least, as it stands. And an interesting choice to come out now on the set of mediums, but I guess they've came into the pits. So maybe they simply went out to get a bit of practice on the medium tires and get back out once more at the end of the session, at the end of this qualifying session, while Jalman is in P4 so far. Jalman and Wellward in P4, and 5 to 2 Mercedes drivers are the next ones to go to the 1:33. So 3 drivers now in the 1:33s. There's more drivers in the 1:33s than the 32s, and same actually goes for the 35s, as there's 3 in the 1:35s. There are actually 3 in the 1:33s actually as well, and same goes for 1:34. So nearly 1 second gap each 3 drivers, as it looks like. Is it going to be Knifer who'd go over the line and begin another lap right here? And yes, they will begin another lap. It'll be Edel and SayrtonPenna who should come into the pits right there. Meanwhile, it is going to be no assist at the very bottom of the table, who will move over up to P9 with the time on the board. They managed to do a lap that is just enough for P9. What about Penna in that Red Bull? As it stands, they would have probably just done a cool down lap or a prep lap on those tires and decide to start a lap just now, while it looks like Racenet or no assist is getting out of the way to get the car behind, gets past him, car behind to have a way and have a chance of making a move, while Welwer is not going to be doing making the move as well. Is it going to be Edel who's going to be able to improve? Edel is at least improving in that middle sector. He's found nearly a 10th on his previous time, and he goes absolutely wide, and no way that he was going to be making and improving on that one. The way he went wide, he's going to come into the pits straight away, and understandably so on their tires, as now about 5.5 minutes pretty much here in the session remain. This is only qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. The main 28 lap race is yet to happen. The 28 lap race is yet to get started. It is Chris Knifer, the man who won the sprint and qualified P2 in sprint qualifying, is going to qualify P1 here in the main Grand Prix qualifying 1:31.838. This might be the fastest time that we've seen all session long, and just after putting that time on the board, they're going to go towards the wall, which I believe would have rather been intentional to retire out of the session. And it is a McLaren 1-2 once more, unable to be catched up, unable to be beaten up by anybody. The two McLarens are at the top and can't be catched by nobody as the moment, which the race they will get, sure, even in qualifying, there is a lot of chances, there is a lot of movement. Everybody will get closer to Knifer and to PFM, and everybody around to have a chance for themselves and their team to get closer to the top two and the top big two in this session, but not yet. They're unable to do it yet. They're unable to make it count right here. While the two Alpines are currently going to be on their way, starting their laps. Well, one of them will be, the others in the pits, while Racenet will make sure to try and find an improvement. He does improve by nearly 4/10 and will move over to P8. And it stands the only Aston Martin in the session so far in P14 on an outlap. As it stands, the next car is PFM, who's on an outlap as well. While it's both the Red Bulls who are on a flying lap, it is Penna who has got Petrocam in between the two Red Bulls, and he's the behind one. While Glausio is not going to be improving. His 5/10 down on his time. I think PFM, or it might have been Chris Knifer, is trying to get out of his way. Well, it'll be very difficult for him, to say the least, while Penna is going to be struggling as well. At least he's far away from the fastest of times, and having done 3 laps, including this one on the soft tires, he was going to come into the pits anyways. Meanwhile, Petrocam goes over up to 134.2, but they've got a lot of battery remaining, and that explains it was a outlap for the previous one, and rather a flying lap on this one now. Meanwhile, we've got yellow flag, so we can't see how much time actually we have remaining in the session, but what we can say and what we can do is how good all of these drivers are going to be at the end of it. Let's see how good they're able to do it, though, because qualifying is not over yet. 2.5 minutes still remain. So pretty much everybody and all those in the pits right now will make sure to come out as soon as possible, but it'll be really difficult for everybody to work it out, for everybody to get a lap better than their previous one, and even try and do a lap that they couldn't earlier. So it is all to play here, it is all to make sure they're gonna get it right here. Right at the moment, not a lot now remaining here in this qualifying session. As I said, less than 2 minutes are remaining. Almost half the grid is out on flying laps, out on faster laps, and it is going to be Petrocam in the Haas, currently in P7, will move over to P6 with over 6/10 on his time to be found, and he's found it right there. One Alpine on an out lap, the other on a flying lap, but he's rather just started, I believe, or otherwise he would have invalidated his lap before before starting another, which would have eventually meant that he's not going to be getting much as well. Well, a lot of lap invalidations, so that means drivers are pushing and pushing like crazy, and it is definitely not easy, not even for the likes of PFM, who got pole for the sprint qualifying and currently sits in P2, is unable to get it all together and get a lap in. It'll be Velverd who's going to be on a out lap right there, while it is Adel who's currently on out lap himself. Meanwhile, the Sauber of Hernanos hasn't got a time on the board so far. Right here, he'll have a chance to get it right now, which he couldn't get earlier. It's been a couple of laps. In fact, we haven't even have them set up a time in this session so far, which is an interesting take in these remaining 27 seconds to see what we're going to be having a look at. You know, if Hernanos is able to catch up these McLaren boys, it'll be an interesting thing to see and a brilliant thing to look at, while it'll be SayrtonPenna who is unable to improve on their final run here in qualifying. It might have been one of the other drivers finding a little bit of an improvement, and the time from Galosio 33.1 is still fastest of them all. Our pole sitter Chris Knifer still in the pits and is sitting in the pits on his own without a thing to worry. Meanwhile, no assist is mowing some grass right there, while it'll be the Mercedes of Jalman. He's looking to improve, he's looking to get a better time. He does get a better time, but not a better position right there. What about his teammate, who's a 10th down on his previous time, needs a minimum 10.5 to get better into P7, and he does get better and into P10, while it would have been PFM, who we would have expected to go faster, to go better, hasn't managed to do so. Has Hernanos managed to go better than him? Yes, he has, as Hernanos is going to jump over and up onto the front row as he takes P2 here in qualifying, gets the second place to himself. He's qualified P3 of the previous sprint qualifying and sprint race and finished P3 in the race. He was simply being calm and collected throughout it, and he has done all he can right here at the moment as well to make sure everything's going to be done nice and easy and brilliantly so far. There actually are drivers who are yet to come over the line just yet right here, but I believe it's Penna into the pits. It is going to be Penna who is not on a very fast or any valid lap, while Chris Knifer, the man who sits in the pits, sure, Knifer in a league of his own. It was Hernanos, despite doing only a single collected registered flying lap, he manages to qualify it onto the front row, and better than the McLaren of PFM. And I'm sure this is what he'd be proud of. This is what the team at Sauber will be more than proud of, to get on what their team driver has done so. And well done to our pole sitter Chris Knifer, to PFM in P3 as well. So everybody well done for their respective positions and performance right here. With these 30 seconds to go on the cards, it is Knifer who's on pole, with Hernanos in P2, with PFM in P3. It's going to be Forest Jump in P4, Galosio in P5, then it is Jalman in P6. It'll be Petrocam in P7, Wellward in P8, with Jupiter in P9, with Rexito in P10. Then it'll SayrtonPenna, Pino, no assist, Adel, Gerardo, Dance, Enduro, and Diego, the two drivers without a time on the board, while everybody else did all they could. And well done to everybody in this qualifying session. They've certainly did a good job. As now, who are we going to be cheering for? I'm not sure if we have a little bit of a break before we get started for the main race, or before we have any cars on the track that we could actually see. We'll move around to have a look at it if I could find, but as it stands, then it is brilliant. So there it is, as we're now just going to be waiting before we are out on the track, as we see cars out on track and we go racing. So we'll be in here in the quiet for a few moments, and we'll be back as soon as we have action and cars ready to go roaring on the track. There we go, the formation lap is now on, and we are more than ready to go racing here at Austin once more. We had 10 laps of sprint earlier, and we will have 28 laps of the main Grand Prix, and the weight drivers were actually racing and being patient, at least in terms of making moves and going for opportunities only when they existed. They weren't trying to overrun it or overdo something that actually wasn't right there. So I think it is very important, and then I'd assume that these drivers would be even more patient in the main race, because the way in the calm and collected quite a few of them were throughout the whole race, I'd assume that many of them are going to take it nice and slow, nice and easy throughout this one, because, you know, everybody has to make sure that they get through this race, because, you know, to finish first you have to finish. I think you'd rather want to finish in the last of places rather than not even finishing. So at least in terms of that, it works out. But while now, as we look at this, it is Chris Neifer who's ahead of everyone on pole position, with Hernanos in P2. Has got second place to him there, his name, with PFM in P3. It is all to play for. While Forrest Jump in P4, Pino Aglosio in P5, the top 5, at least the top 4, will be on their cards. Meanwhile, Diego is yet to go over the line and stop the car in their grid spot. So the final car on the grid has not yet approached, and now the final car is approaching the grid with everything on the line. Chris on pole, Hernanos in P2, PFM in P3. It's going to be 5 red lights, and we go racing in the US Grand Prix for the main Grand Prix. It's going to be a brilliant start for Hernanos, a decent start for Chris as well, who's going to be leading into turn 1. And Hernanos has the inside line, Chris has the outside line. They're going to try and avoid contact, and very wide going PFM, I believe so, or one of the cars right there, as they've lost out a lot. Well, Hernanos leads quite closely. PFM in P2, and it is Chris Neifer who's in P3, has lost out to his teammate. Forrest Jump in P4 with Galosio in P5. I believe it was one of the Mercedes who's lost out many positions, while SayrtonPenna's down in P18 as well. So much happened right here with Petrocam in P7, while Rexino is in P7, Jupiter in P9, Wellward in P10. So definitely the Mercedes has dropped down, and Dance has already retired from the session. And Adel is going very slow, and Rexino is moving out of the way as well, so not sure what exactly happened there, but this is nothing short of chaos, and this is absolutely chaotic conditions right here. And we already have a safety car. We already have safety car right here for 28 laps of racing. Everybody starting on the medium tire, just one on the hard, and it was Wellward who decided to start on the hard compound tire. And I think nobody on the soft tire, so I don't expect if anybody's going to be pitting, unless they will simply want their mandatory pit stop to get out of the way. But I doubt anybody's really going to decide to pit right now, unless we could see our race leader come in. No, they will not come in. It's a simple one-stop race. That is brilliant. I mean, for 28 laps of racing and for a one-stop, and especially for a safety car to come out on lap 1 because of a couple of issues, it's not going to be really convincing anybody. I mean, even if it's a two-stop race, nobody is going to be pitting on lap 1, apart from some drivers. Let's say if you have damage, or you're really the driver that needs to pit, or somewhat of complications. So other than that, there isn't much that you're going to be doing, or you're going to be needing to do, simply trying to pit on lap 2. So as it stands, it is Hernanos who leads ahead of PFM in P2 and Chris Naifa in P3. Chris hasn't got the better of race starts here tonight. Hernanos had a brilliant launch off the line, to say the least. He had an exceptional launch off the line to make it work right there. Well, Forest Jump is in P4 with Glosio in P5, Jalman in P6 as well. So let's have a look at these positions right here. As Knife has lost 2, while Jump, Glosio and Jalman are all in their own positions. Meanwhile, Juper, Rexido have gained 2, with Gerardo having gained over 6 positions. With Pina gained 2 as well, then 2 for no assist, with 6 for sim driver Diego, while Petrocam, Wellward, Adel have lost their positions. SayrtonPenna as well, is in P17. And Penna has now pitted, and it turns out more people have actually pitted than we would have expected. So they've simply went for another set of mediums. I mean, Penna's went for a set of softs, which is an interesting choice. I'd say probably they would assume another safety car, or simply another safety car window that they'd be looking to pit in, or you know, make a move and get themselves a chance for it. So let's see how good and how you know, much better it is going to be the strategy than everybody else. But at least those, I mean, let's say those at the bottom who have actually pitted, let's say Petrocam, Wellward and Adel and everybody, they pretty much lost their positions anyways. So, you know, it was kind of a case of where anyways going to be here, then might as well simply get on the new tire. Of course, it's not much of a difference. Well, the safety cars only came out on lap 1, but still, a lap or 2 could be a big of a difference when it comes down to management, when it comes down to those very last laps of racing, which eventually would be certainly the best possible way for you and your team to give you the car, or give you certain indications on how you're supposed to do certain things. And if you do it a little bit better than your teammate, or than one or the other person out there, it could simply mean that you've done a little bit of a better job than people around you. But let's see. I mean, a lot remains. We're only 3 laps in, so can't really do anything right now, to say the least, because it is lap 3 out of 28. We pretty much had safety car by the time the drivers were past the Esses around the circuit. So it's pretty difficult to call out on anything right now, because the safety car restart, everybody now has cold tires, no temperatures in those. So definitely, whoever's got better tires, whoever's got better temperature and grip on those cars, you know they definitely have got a better and a proper chance of taking that lead or snatching that lead from our race leader. Well, the safety car is going to be coming in this lap now. The safety car is into the pits right there. We're about to get this on now. Hernanos on the rail now. Gonna get the racing lead start. Will he be able to get the restart there? He's gone in for it now already. He's ahead of everyone with PFM in P2, followed by Knifer in P3. It's all to play for. Knifer might have a chance at his own teammate, or will he though? Maybe not. Into it, turn one. It is gonna be Forrest Jump, who's gonna be right behind the Chris Knifer's McLaren and ahead of Glosio's Red Bull. It could all be going interesting here right in towards the first couple of corners. Hernanos has managed to keep his lead, has managed to keep his lead in P1 and keep it ahead of PFM, who's about 6/10 behind him. And remember, no DRS for that back straight for the first lap behind after the safety car has went in. So a lot will be coming up on our screens, and scenarios will be opening up after we've made through the first couple of safety car laps. Well, now it is no assist who's going to be fighting against Juper. Sorry, it is Diego at least in that Diego actually in that Williams. It's no assist gets past the Williams and gets himself up in a P12. Is there going to be anybody else who's going to be trying to making up some moves? Is it going to be the Mercedes of Jalman? Not right there. But might be the Mercedes of Wellward, and indeed it is the Mercedes of Wellward as he gets past the Williams of Diego. Diego does absolutely brilliant to avoid making any contact with the car on the outside. And certainly, you could say it was very low speeds, but still, it was almost into those braking zones, which could be very difficult for you, if you especially run a little bit wide. You get a bit of understeer or slightly lock up. You could ruin yours or everybody around you or the driver around you's race. So in terms of that, they've done brilliant to avoid their contact. Well, Petrocam's going to go for it on the inside lane of the turn one of Gerardo, but no, rather he has to back out. He nearly gets his front wing clipped off by the Red Bull in front. Well, it's going to be Petrocam who's going to try and make the move around the outside of the Alpine. He'd rather not actually be able to do that. He'd rather not be able to make the move count just yet. Well, Forrest Jump is 6/10, 7/10 now behind Chris Knifer, who is about 4/10 behind his teammate. PFM, who's over a second now behind Hernanos. So Hernanos definitely showing the pace and speed that he did in qualifying, taking that into the race. But will Chris make a move on PFM here? Because even in the sprint we saw Chris didn't make it an impatient move. He wasn't really being too impatient. He wasn't really doing anything unnecessary, simply waited for his opportunity and only went for it when a chance appeared. While Galosio is 3 to 4 tenths behind, or actually ahead of Jalman, and over 2.2 seconds ahead of the next car. There's so much going on, a lot of overtakes and move are about to be made, while Andrew sends it on the inside line. Oh, Wellward there, and he damages his own front wing and plate, but he was never going to make that corner there, and eventually gets his front wing damaged. While at the top, there might be a move coming up, and there will be a move coming up, as Chris Knifer will get past his teammate into it, stand one. He's going to go for it on the inside line, but he runs a little bit wide. Is he going to allow PFM to get past? It eventually will not. Right here, it's only lap 6 out of 28, so you know they're going to be taking it nice and easy. They simply are going to be not having much of it. While Adel has now retired out of this race. I'm not sure what exactly happened to them, but I believe they retired in the pits right there, while Wellward find themselves in the gravel, and there is yellow flag in at turn 1, and now Velward has retired outside of the pits. We're about to find out if there's going to be any safety car for that. I doubt that there will be, but could be a pretty dangerous place to retire. I understand it's just before the Esses and not much of a big corner problem or a big contact issue, but still, you never know what's going to be happening. And now, while Chris Neifer has got past his teammate, he might be putting all that pressure on Hernanos now, because it won't be too long before we'd see Chris Neifer on the tail, on the rear wing and the gearbox of Hernanos to make him get out of the way, make him work very hard if he wants to keep that race lead or that race win for himself. Throughout the night right there, while Andrew now is right behind Rexito. He made one of the contact with one of the Mercedes earlier. How is going to be this one from him here? Is he going to send a move on the inside against the RB? He certainly will not be doing that. He's not even close enough to do that or have any chance of him being able to make that count at all. While the rear wing will be open on the Tauber, will also be open on the RB. While Petrocam will it be able to get past, because the rear wing, while Rexito sends it on the inside line, so does Enduro, Andrew, and not sure what these guys are thinking here, but absolute aggressive driving from these drivers very early on in this race. We were just watching out Rexito, we were just watching out Petrocam get past the Red Bull of Penna there, and then it was Rexito along with Andrew who sent it on the inside line. So aggressive dive bombs being made right here as Gerardo now right behind the Red Bull of Penna as well, but it is SayrtonPenna who's right behind the Alpine of Gerardo. So moves could be coming up soon. Moves could be made now, while Diego will be on the inside line. Oh no, assist. Diego's going to go for it on the inside line. Has he got enough grip and a better exit? Can he get it though? No, he can't. At least not just yet. As having the outside line and whole track, have a whole track to himself. It's just better for no assist. While we're going to move over to the top of the timing charts, and it is going to be already, before we could watch any of it, it's going to be Chris Neifer who gets past Hernanos, and he keeps the lead to himself so far. And on lap 8, Hernanos has lost the lead of this US Grand Prix, and he finds it very difficult, at least at the moment. It'll be interesting to see how good are we going to see how these guys are going to do, because technically what the strategy has told us, we're about to get ourselves into a two-stop strategy, and now you know Hernanos might have pushed his tires a little bit more than he would have needed, because now even PFM, who was quite a little, or were a second behind Hernanos while he was in second place, is now only 3/10 behind him. He might well have an opportunity to get past him, if not on this lap. The next lap will be the one where PFM gets past Hernanos and get back to the top two, and a Bentane, a McLaren 1-2. But is it going to be that easy? Will Hernanos allow him? It might be that easy as he sends it on the inside line and gets past Hernanos, but Hernanos is going to come back at him and get back the position to himself. So surely he might not have the speed or pace that he needs at the moment to stay ahead, but he still has the warrior fighting spirit that is not going to allow PFM to take his position easily or without a proper fight, as once more the DRS will not be open on the Sauber, will be opened on that McLaren, which certainly will allow the McLaren driver to be ever closer to Hernanos. But let's see what can they do, what and how we're all going to be maintaining all of this so far, because we're seeing a couple of drivers making stops in this race, and the Penna's made a stop on the previous lap, while Andrew has done it now, and Penna is out of this Grand Prix right here. Another driver out of this race, so we've lost 4 within 9 laps of this race. It is Wellward, Dance, Adel, Wellward and Penna now, the recent victim of a DNF in this race so far. And Hernanos is doing a brilliant job as he's got a rear wing and DRS to himself because of being within a second of Chris Neifer. It could still be anybody's game. Sure, Chris is leading, but right at the moment as it stands, any of the 3 drivers in the top 3 could have a proper chance of taking this race right here. Well, penalties, it is Juper who's got 3 seconds along with Gerardo and Andrew. All these drivers have got a 3-second time penalty, while Andrew has made 2 stops, 1 stop to Petrocam and SayrtonPenna in this race so far, while nobody else has yet made a pit stop. Well, now pretty much we're going into the stabilization zone of this race, apart from a lot of these drivers at the very back, especially this pack from SayrtonPenna downwards. It is pretty much all of them are very close to each other, and the move could be coming up soon. While there might be a move coming up soon from PFM on Hernanos, because once again Chris Neifer has pulled away and Hernanos is just within 4 tenths ahead of PFM, but now again that gap goes up to 8 tenths. So as I said, we're never going to know who's doing what until we've got to the very last couple of laps, you know, when there is only, like, let's say 7 to 8 laps remaining. We kind of would have an idea who has a better edge over tire strategy and whatnot, but as far as it stands, you can't say much. You can't say a lot, or I'd say you can't say anything at this point, considering not much is going on. And I'd hope, all right, that's hour and 10 minutes. I thought it said 10 minutes on the OBS, so I was like, something went wrong with the stream, but thankfully it did not. All right then, so lap 10 out of 28. This is exactly the laps we did for the sprint, and if it was to be the results for the sprint, it was going to be Hernanos in P2, but at the moment he finished obviously in P3 in a sprint with PFM in P2 and Chris Neifer in P1. It was a McLaren 1-2, and at the moment there is drivers at the very back. We're having a battle of their own. If you guys want, we could definitely focus on that. Otherwise, we're going to be focusing on the top drivers, because we've seen, sure, overtakes. I say we've seen Hernanos, Chris Neifer get past his teammate and then get past Hernanos, but we didn't actually see what happened before it, because we were fighting the other parts of the drivers, or, you know, we were looking at other drivers. Sure, that's important, but when it comes to, let's say, you know, the important positions for the top, you know, Hernanos has managed to stay ahead of BFM for many laps now, despite no DRS to Hernanos' car now, falling over 1.7 seconds behind Chris Neifer, but he's now got not much battery remaining as well, so it's going to be all on the battery management and all of this, as it depends, because PFM has got an extra speed, he's got extra performance because of that not only ERS but that DRS, which Hernanos simply does not have, and it would be very difficult but then also very important for Hernanos to stay ahead of him to deny McLaren a 1-2 finish here in this race. So now, with the gaps looking up, the field has pulled away from each other, away from one another, and no driver. A couple of movements ago, Jalman was within 1 second of Colosio, but that's not even the case, no more. While PFM and Hernanos very, very much equal to each other in terms of pace and speed. Same goes for Chris Neifer, he's slightly one step ahead of these guys, who is over 1.7 seconds ahead, but pretty much they could at least see each other on the track. And now, with 12 laps, with us being 12 laps into this race, only 2 laps from now on in we need to do. Only then we'll be halfway through this race. So a lot, remember, is remaining in this race, and even the first pit stops having been made. Sure, a couple of drivers have made stops and managed to make pit stops, but not from the top drivers, at least not from the top 3, top 5, who would possibly have an opportunity. And remember, maybe if PFM can't get past Hernanos here, they could go for an undercut attempt in the upcoming laps to have a chance at him. So an undercut could be on the way of Hernanos. And there we go. As we talk about undercut, PFM is gonna send it on into the pit lane and get themselves a chance, as they should, you know, as it is in the undercut. If you can't overtake them on track, you try and overtake them off the track, or at least in the pits with that strategy. So mediums off, hard tires on, and with their only pit stop plan as it's planned in this race should be this one, unless there's a late safety car, unless there is something late in the race that happens, which we obviously don't know yet. So now nobody remains within 1 second of each other. Chris Neifer leads ahead of Hernanos, 1.6 seconds behind him in P2. Forrest Jump in P3 with Colosio now in P4, with Duper in P5, followed by PFM in P6, along with Jalman, the 2 drivers who have now made a pit stop, with Petricam, who had Azimas made a pit stop, but he's on old 11 lap old mediums, while Endrew is now on 4 lap old hards. SayrtonPenna has also made their way around the final turn, final straight, main straight, and into turn 1 in P11, 3 lap old hards. So it's Rexito in P12 with no assist, and Gerardo in P14. All the bottom 3 drivers now have pitted. All the bottom 5 drivers have technically pitted, along with Jalman and PFM. Is Chris Neifer going to go into the pits? Yes, he will. So will Hernanos. Now the question will be, what do the others do, and where does PFM come out right here of the pits? Is Hernanos and Neifer going to be able to jump off each other, while Hernanos is still going to be going? Meanwhile, Chris Neifer has made his stop in the grid box, and he's going to be just exiting right behind him. Where is PFM going to be now? PFM is going to try and get past Duper, and he will get past Duper. He will just about almost come out ahead of Hernanos, as they're nearly going to collide. They almost made contact there, do Hernanos and PFM. They're still going to be wheel to wheel, while warmed up tires versus cold tires is going to be PFM. As I said, he couldn't take the position on track. Is going to be taking that with the undercut, but the gap is not much though. Only 6 tenths between the two. It's almost a same amount of position switch. There's no time other than the pit stop. Other than position switches have been gained by the PFM then as it stands. So well done to everybody involved. Well, Colosio now in P5 as well. So a lot to play for. Well, Forrest Jump is over 7.8 seconds ahead of Chris Neifer, but he needs to make a pit stop. He has not yet stopped in this race so far. Only 2 drivers remain in the race, and it is Duper in the Williams and Forrest in the Alpine, who are yet to make a pit stop just right there. While PFM 1.3 seconds behind his teammate now, with Hernanos just about maintaining 9 tenths to a second to PFM as well for that second place. So as I said before, even if Chris pulls away with that first place, it's always going to be these guys. It's always going to be PFM and Hernanos to fight for that second place, and we'd be having a chance to see some racing, see brilliant racing on who's going to be taking that chance. While it is Diego and Rexito fighting each other off, while Diego stays ahead of Rexito and gets past him up in a P11, while Duper has now came into the pits and has pitted in this race so far. while Hernanos might be not within the second of the car in front, while PFM is indeed within a car with the second of the car in front. Of course, the McLaren drivers have been very calm, so calm and collected, so I don't think PFM's going to try and make it, go for it right now, or even if he has a chance to make an aggressive move, I don't think he's going to risk it all off, for his, pretty much, these guys are championship rivals as well. Remember, Forrest Jump is in P2 in the championship, but he's in P4 at the moment in this race. Hernanos, the next car closer to Chris Neifer, who scored 298 points coming into this weekend. Still now pretty much half of the race now remain. First half we're through. The second half is now starting. It is now going to be depending on also, we're going to get pretty much a lot of action right there. We might be on our way to get a lot of action, because look at that. Neifer is within 4/10 of his teammate, while Hernanos is lost out, and that only indicates one thing, that despite an undercut attempt on Chris Neifer, PFM wasn't able to get past or get in because the gap was far, but still, that warm-up tires, those tires he's warmed up a little bit, maybe a little bit better than Chris can though, because it's only 7/10 separating the two teammates, and this is pretty much for the first time since Chris Neifer overtook him in the second place, while he tried to hunt Hernanos back for the lead, while Hernanos is now 1.8 seconds behind these guys. It'll be quite difficult for you'd say PFM to get past his teammate, but let's see. It's going to be all to play for right here. The only two teammate cars, the only two cars on the grid, and what a position it is. It's the leaders who are within 1 second of each other, while nobody else within half a second or even a second of each other. While PFM might have an opportunity, almost you'd have thought he's going to have it there, because slightly had a little bit of tire sliding, and it definitely would have been one of the drivers locking up around, which we heard the audio for. So now I think now, as we saw Hernanos push on those medium tires, lost out the grip very early. So if PFM is now indeed pushing on those hard tires, he's going to find it very difficult in the very ending races moments, or very ending laps of this Grand Prix, while still over 11 laps remain in this one. Still a lot is remaining. I mean, let's say in a 50-60 lap race, 11 laps are not much, but in a 28 lap race, 11 laps are quite a lot, and it's nearly half of the race, just a little bit less than half the race. So I'm sure he's going to make the most of it, because now Hernanos has lost out as well, while the top two teammates in that, making it a McLaren 1-2 right here, with Hernanos in P3, followed by Forrest Jump in P4, Galosio in P5, Jalman in P6, Juper in P7, with Andrew in P8, with P9 for SayrtonPenna, Petricam completing the top 10. Outside the top 10, it is Diego, then Rexido, no assist, and Gerardo, with Gerardo being the last driver of the running cars. Meanwhile, we've lost 4 drivers, including Pinna, Wellward, Edel, and Dance. The 4 drivers who we've lost out of this Grand Prix. Meanwhile, the 2 teammates are the only drivers who are within 1 second of each other. Meanwhile, Hernanos is absolutely losing time to these guys, but maybe, just maybe, he's charging his battery. You never know, because with a lot of battery management going on, a lot of battery, it is ERS, but it can for sure win or make you win or lose races, because it's how difficult it is, or how difficult how difficult it usually gets. And there might be a little bit of a slide and a bit of oversteer and a bit of a moment from the McLaren of Neifer on the exit of turn 1. Is there going to be a chance for his teammate to get closer? Still within 8/10, and if he is just able to gain on him in that third sector, in that final sector, And there we go, all that hard work would be undone as PFM gets a 3-second time penalty. Now, even if he gets ahead of him on track, there's no way for him to win unless he pulls away over 3 seconds, or he could now wish for his teammate to get a 3-second time penalty, while Hernanos is 3.9 seconds behind these guys. So technically, it just makes it easier for Hernanos to take second place, unless they want to do and play a team game here, where in the remaining laps, Chris lets PFM get past him, and PFM pulls away while Chris defends that from Hernanos. But of course, the championship leader, the number one driver of the team, the McLaren team drivers, I don't think are going to be looking to do that, unless we get a little bit of it, while it is Gerardo and no assist fighting each other a little bit right here at the very bottom of this grid then for P13. Sure, it's very bottom, but it's almost like this is all we have right here in terms of overtakes, with no assist in P14, Gerardo in P13 so far. 8/10 separated by 2, and by the looks of it, no assist is slightly losing to Gerardo already, and that means it is Chris Neifer who's on top. Is still leading ahead of his teammate and ahead of everyone. Not everyone, but simply you know, he's got his teammate to defend from, while we're going to go back to the bottom drivers. Meanwhile, Galosio's got another 3-second time penalty, and while no assist is going to be on his way. He's going to try and get closer to Gerardo if he can. Gerardo locks up a little bit. That might allow no assist to get past. That might not allow no assist to get closer. While we go back to the leaders, while we go back to the top right here, it doesn't matter if he has a penalty. He's still going to try and make it work. He's still going to try and make sure he gets past his teammate. Because even doing it on track, just on track, will make him feel so much better if he can't do it, rather than him not being able to do it despite being in very close range for him to have a chance at it. And into turn one they go. This pretty much will be the closest they've been to each other, the two teammates right here. So now you know, 5/10, 6/10 between the two, and every time we went over to the back straight, where the DRS gets enabled, and a long straight there has been more chances of him to properly get close, for him to you know, make up all the space that was left on the previous lap. But no, he's lost out then. He's definitely lost out as he gets another penalty. So definitely the pressure, it keeps growing and growing on PFM's face, on his hands, while he's now got 6 seconds in penalties. So ultimately it would be very difficult for him to overtake Chris Neifer now, unless, as I said earlier, they switch up positions and move away, but I doubt that will be the case. Meanwhile, Hernanos is now arriving from behind. He is over 5 seconds, now 4.8 seconds behind PFM, but because of that 6 seconds in total of penalty time, he doesn't need to worry about any of it. As long as he's within 6 seconds, he'll be okay to take that second place, while the top two are still at it. Meanwhile, PFM, we talk about him losing time. He's only gained it on his teammate, 5.5 up towards turn one. Is he going to send it on the inside line? Is he going to be just aggressive enough to show up what he can do to his teammate and his team at McLaren, that he can do a lot if he is, you know, be racing as a number one driver? Certainly, he's doing a brilliant job. I mean, at this point, it's not like a number one or number two driver, but it's rather doing the best. And whoever's got the better speed, whoever's got the better pace, is going to be at it and will be doing all his best. Well, there's an Alpine who goes wide, but I think he went wide to let these guys get past him. Meanwhile, now only 4.5 tenths between the top two. It could be PFM's chance to get past his teammate and race leader Chris Neifer of the US Grand Prix right here. But the aggressiveness is not going to be shown right now. He's rather going to be able, or will be saving it for later maybe. I mean, if he didn't have the penalty, he could have saved it for later, but right now he has to use all of it. So penalties as it stands is PFM has got 6 seconds, 3 seconds to Galosio, with 6 seconds to Jupa and 6 seconds to Andrew. Followed by Sim Driver, who's got 3 seconds, with Rexido 3 seconds as well, while 12 seconds to Gerardo. Right there. Meanwhile, it is once more these two guys ever closer to one another. PFM getting closer. I think definitely, let's say that, sure, these guys are being careful, but if it was another driver, if it was another car in front of him, instead of the papaya orange, he wouldn't have been this careful. He wouldn't have been taking care of this car at all, much of it, because 5.1 seconds to Hananos. I mean, had PFM not get another 3-second time penalty, it would have been even easier. Now another driver, and that is Gerardo in the Alpine, retired out of the Grand Prix. We lose our 5th driver of this session. We lost 4 already, and we're going to lose another one right here. So started with 18th and 13 of the drivers that so far remain, and these two are the drivers who are within 1 second of each other, and they simply not going for moves as PFM nearly makes a mistake and locked up the rear tires. Just let go of the brakes to prevent a spin, but that could have gone horribly wrong for PFM there. Had they pushed on the brakes all the way, they just saved it, and this is the place, and this is where the experience counts, while Juper now right behind the Mercedes of Gelman, another driver, and it is Rexito who's retired out, while Juper's going to go for on the inside line on his way to make the move into the braking zone. Is the Mercedes going to be able to come back at him, or the Williams will be able to make the move successful so far? And as it stands, yes, he has managed to make the move successful, but this is the exact place where drivers come back. This is the exact place we see drivers come back at one another. You know, the top two are still going to be on their own, and Gelman is not yet able to get closer, not yet able to make any progress of these racing things so far. Ooh, Juper's going to go, Gelman's going to go very wide, might get himself a penalty, he will not, but Juper will eventually get a penalty, and it might be more than 3 seconds, and yes, it will be 9 seconds to their total penalty time now. While oh, there's the driver facing the wrong way, and it is Andrew. We saw him make a couple of contacts and dive bombs onto the cars, but he now finds himself facing the wrong way, having done 13 lap on those hard tires. They're going to come into the pits, while SayrtonPenna is going to be in a bit of pressure from Petrocam, who is in P9 so far as it stands, while Gelman 7 tenths to the Williams of Juper as well. So pretty much drivers are getting closer, while the top two are simply staying within the DRS. PFM is being given the DRS from Chris Neifer to simply stay ahead or simply stay where he is, and I don't think he's going to go for a move right there unless Chris simply allows him easy. I don't think Ilka's going to be going for that. He's simply going to hope that he doesn't get another penalty, so it doesn't make it 9 seconds to his time, and he's going to be happy taking that 3rd place. So far, with all of these things as there are, Petrocam with that rear wing open on his car, for SayrtonPenna having to rely on the ERS battery. He won't be able to do that as Petrocam gets past the Ferrari in that Haas. The Haas driver will get past it. And definitely their fight with the Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. At the moment, Galosio is scoring more points for Red Bull, but they still at least have that in mind. At least they will have in their mind, in their all of thoughts and thinking of what exactly will be happening or going on Moving forward as very wide going is SayrtonPenna, and he's absolutely going to lose a lot of time on that. While he will still have DRS, but what he could have had a chance of an overtake in the turn 1 will be simply lost because of him going very wide before the final corner. And it is definitely not really easy for him to make it that far, or for him to really not have a chance of the move being made right there, while it is lap 24 of 28. It is SayrtonPenna who is currently in P9, just behind Petrocam, who's 7/10 the gap between the two, while all three drivers are within 3 seconds of each other. Everybody gaps 7/10 to the next driver in front. And forward, I mean, definitely the game between Chris and PFM would have been, from the start, we would have known, but let's say, they're still teammates, and, we saw Chris quite about, not be very aggressive, but still make moves when he could. So I think definitely PFM has had enough opportunities, and if there was any intention of making the move, he could have easily done that, but he's simply trying to take care of it as much as he can. With our leaders on lap 25 of 28. There is now not much remaining in this race. Chris Neifer looks and seems like the driver who's going to be winning it. Hernanos has not had the speed and pace that he would have wanted in the second stint especially. He's on his way to take that second place though. While PFM is in the second place, P2 at the moment, and definitely a chance for McLaren 1-2, but it was only going to be possible if he did not have 6 seconds in penalties. And look at this. This is very much closer between the two, but definitely Chris is going to pull away, because look at that, he's not even going to go in 8th gear, as PFM is simply going to be backing out of it. While now right here, as it is SayrtonPenna fighting with Petrocam for P8, but he looks set for a P9 finish as well, while Diego is over 16 seconds ahead. Was it no assist? It might have been no assist, causing a little bit of a yellow flag. And then there it is, lap 26 out of 28, with a McLaren 1-3 with a double podium to their name on the way as it stands, while Hernanos with a 6-second time penalty to PFM looks set to take that second place and get himself into P2. Well, PFM should get his third place. I don't think it'll be Forrest Jump who'll be able to get closer, while Forrest is in P4 as well, doing the best he can, with Glosio in a race of his own also in P5, with Juper in P6, Gelman in P7, with Petrocam in P8. Penna in P9, with his Diego who is in P10 right at the moment. While Andrew is in P11 on his own, and no assist in P12. Pretty much our race around here has turned quite quiet, we'd have to say. Sure, Sayrton still within a second of Petrocam, with that gap pretty much, sometimes goes a little bit further or it comes down for a little bit of a few moments, but still quite difficult, I think, going for an overtake. And he certainly wouldn't even be trying to go for an overtake at this point, if you'd ask me, because I'm sure there's going to be chances, and he'd be going for it if there is chances, but we'll be taking a huge risk or to really give up on that 9th place to try and take that 8th place. They're also over 23 seconds ahead of the next, behind the next group of cars, so that is a bit of a disadvantage as well, because considering Jupiter's got 12 seconds, so he just has to be not even full, but half the gap to Jupiter. Jupiter's pretty much probably going to be finishing in 8th place if he just manages to stay out and about, you know, a second ahead of Jalman. You know, at least, you know, he's over 13 seconds to the next car and only a second, so you probably won't be able to get 6th place, but possible 2nd place would be on the way. And Knifer's now got a penalty. Knifer has now got a 3-second time penalty, which could make things absolutely interesting from here. It is the final lap though, so not much will be done, but it could have been interesting had he got it earlier. But it looks pretty much all set and okay to the end of the Grand Prix now, while Chris Knifer leads ahead of everyone in P1 with PFM in P2 with a 6-second time penalty to his name. It'll be Hernanos who's pretty much going to be looking to finish in P3 at least, as far as things stand right now, as everybody is now on the final lap of the Grand Prix, final lap of this race. Now their time is on in the final sector are the top two of this race. It was a McLaren 1-2 in the sprint. It will be now the top two on this race right there, keeping at it, and it's the duo of Chris Knifer and PFM, who got 1-2 in the sprint race, will come home to finish 1-2 in the race, but it'll be Hernanos who should get P3, but Chris Knifer is going to come over the line and win the US Grand Prix and takes victory, not only in the sprint, but wins round 19 Grand Prix as well, while Hernanos has got P2. PFM gets P3, while Jump has got P4, with Galosio, as he's about to make his way over the finish line, will come home to finish P5, and that'll be now Jupiter, the next car, right behind him. He himself has got over 12 seconds in penalties, will come home and over to finish in P6. But it is going to be the Mercedes of Jalman who should take that place without any problem, while Patrickam and SayrtonPenna has got a penalty to his name. So Patrickam seems okay and looks set for a P8 finish, even if he does not finish ahead of Patrickam on the SayrtonPenna on the track. While over the line they'll go, it'll be Patrickam who finishes P8, Sayrton in P9. Then it'll be Diego, the final driver, final one to have a chance of finishing on those point scoring positions of our all 12 finishes. And Galosio has DNF'd. How has Galosio DNF'd after finishing the race? Not sure how all of that is going to be working out. With all these guys will get a better position, but I'd assume it's going to get dismissed. It's going to, you know, get thrown out. As it is, Chris Knifer, who wins here at the Austin GP. Brilliant performance from him right there. While Hernanos finishes P2. He qualified P2. So this will be your end, ladies and gentlemen, of the sprint of the stream. Just in a few moments' time. It is now going to be, these are going to be your results, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get to the end of the stream, it is Chris Knifer in P1 who qualified at P2, actually. He was PFM who got pole, and I might have got my things wrong. Then Hernanos got P3 as it stands. Well, starting at P3 he did. So then the top three would be Chris Knifer, Hernanos, PFM, and Hernanos in the top 3. Well, Forest Jump in P4. Well, it is Jupiter in P5, followed by Gelman in P6. Petrocam in P7 with Sayrton and no assists, along with Rexito and Diego in P11, followed by the only 11 drivers finished with a very ending DNF for Colosio, which was shocking. But then it was Valverde, Colosio, Edel, Gerardo, Pina, and Dant. The 12 drivers who could not get to the end, who could not finish this race, unfortunately. But that's going to be the end of it then, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all watching had fun, enjoyed it, and really enjoyed myself being around here. And I hope you all watching had fun and enjoyed the commentary on these races. And once again, from all of us here at F1 Cockpit Real Racing, and my name is Zab, and from all of us here at Cockpit Real Racing, and my name is Zabe, but in fact, we're going to be joining for interviews, I guess. I was about to say bye-bye, but as it stands, we will be joining us, because it's going to be the case then. So, it was, let's have a look at this then. We'll actually have to figure out on Discord audio, but I think we should be okay on what we're going to be getting in Discord, but we should be just in a moment. So we're going to be moving our way on Discord. To just bear with us, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
And ladies and gentlemen, we have our race winners and the drivers from McLaren, and we'll talk with us with our race winner, Chris Neifer. Chris, talk us through your race. First, you in the sprint, you didn't qualify on pole, but back to the top. Actually, sorry, I think you got pole in the sprint qualifying, but not in the race qualifying. Starting in P2, what was going through your mind, and how you went on to manage and win this race and finish in P1?
Hey, Zabiullah. I mean, it was the. I mean, I got pole on the race and not the pole on sprint. But apart from this, it was a really tricky track. You couldn't see anything where like the point of turning, really anything. It was all blind. I had some references by looking at the asphalt of the track, and I was competitive, I guess, and no, it was just driving because there were not really a lot of tough battles. I was trying just to manage a bit of tires. I realized that managing my tires was not my thing always, so I just started pushing, and yeah, that got me the win. Nothing much, honestly.
All right. I mean, we saw you. You didn't really have a good start. I mean, Hernanos took the lead from you at the beginning of it. So, what
Mm.
was just going through your
Yeah.
mind at that point? Were you gonna stay calm, or in your mind you thought, okay, I'm gonna try and get him at the very next opportunity?
I just talked about yeah, my McLaren was the Lando Norris one, so the starts had to be like that. No, I was really calm and waiting for an opportunity because I knew I had the pace. So nah, I just thought about like okay, it's okay, it happens. Nothing much crazy.
All right. Congratulations then to our winner, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Nye, for getting on the victory here to the Circuit of the Americas. We'll move over to Hernanos, driver who finished in P2. Just take us through your race, Nanos. First, you started P3, if I could remember it right, and then you went on to take the lead actually in the turn one. It was pretty a chaotic start as well. So, how did you manage to keep the car, especially keeping a car in one piece, and then also keeping the lead for at least not half, but at least for a decent amount of time?
Yeah, yeah. I start second. I think the feature race. Yeah, I try to overtake Chris because I know he had better pace than me, like 1 cent, I think, in this track. But it was a very tough race for me. I no practice at all, so I try to do my best as always. Unfortunately, when I leave the pit, Per Francesco hit me in my front wing, so I do all the second stint with a very uh, understeer, especially in the slow corners, so I can stay with they for the second stint of the race. Fortunately, Pier Francesco cut the corners like cut the way in front of his opponents, so I take the second position, and I'm very happy with this position. I know have the pace for the first.
Interestingly,
I
but I
like.
mean,
I
still.
let's say I like to be forgiven. I I do, and I take back. Let's say like that. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
but no. So still, I mean, sure, you as you said, you don't think you had the pace for P1, but still, after leading for a couple of laps, were there any moment you'd have thought that maybe I've got a little bit slight bit of chances to keep the lead for a little bit longer time?
No, I don't know. I know Chris have a better pace than me. I see that in the sprint. No, so much, but I can stay with him. Maybe if I manage better the tires, I come back in the end of the race, like I do, I think, because I arrive 1.5 2 seconds from him. So I don't know. The race go like this, and I'm happy for the second place.
All right, congratulations for your second place, ladies and gentlemen. And now we'll move
Thank you.
over. Thank you, Hernanos. Congratulations, and Chris, our winner as well. Now we'll move over to our third place finisher, Pierre, as Chris's teammate. We saw you stay behind your teammate for the longest of times, but you didn't quite go for chances, even where I thought it was possible for you to go. Was this always the plan? You'd stay behind your teammate, or halfway through the race you thought, okay, I'll let Chris handle this and I'll stay in P2?
Okay, so let's say it was a strategic decision. Uh, we didn't want to lose that much time, and I didn't have that uh, better pace to overtake him and stay ahead. For the rest, I want to say this was a very ashaming performance. Apart from the sprint where I took the ball and I finished second, this is not a race I want to remember. Uh, Especially the second stint. Uh, yeah, all the penalties. My driving wasn't. No, not only it wasn't the best. It was, I think, at my worst level. So I'm really ashamed for that hideous driving. And yeah, regards that contact with Hernanos, I think I couldn't turn a bit later, and maybe that was the effect of having more grip for the first time going into turn one at full speed. I don't know. I I braked at the same braking point as the other laps. Maybe I should have turned a bit later, but yeah, obviously I didn't want that to happen. And yeah, I saw he was losing time, but suddenly when I took the 6 seconds, he stopped losing time. So yeah, good drive. I don't know what to say. Uh,
All right. I
I
mean,
hope,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I hope to redeem myself next time. I don't know what to say. Not my best performance.
Yeah, I mean, you could still be a bit happy, you know, it's still a P3, ain't it? So I'm sure you would have wanted a 1-2 finish, but still, a P3 would be a decent enough performance to say the least. So congratulations to everybody of our all top 3 finishes. As we're now just coming to an end end of this stream, we'll be just getting to the end of it. It was myself, Zappy, bringing you guys all the action right here from F1 at Cockpit Real Racing Elite or Pure Skill Elite Racing and Cockpit Real Racing. It was myself, Zappy, and I'm out.